Good evening, everyone. It is Friday evening, and it is the last night of our virtual book launch for the Overcomers Anthology. I have with me today author Brian A. Matthews. So, we're going to start by me just reading his bio and let you know a little bit more about him. A moving conversationalist with a compelling story to tell, Brian A. Matthews inspires people in the midst of life's toughest challenges. Working through and emerging from the grips of poverty on the rough streets of Detroit, Brian draws on his captivating life story to change the narrative on inner city culture and the plight of the African American male. Join me in welcoming Brian to the studio today. Brian, welcome. What would you like to tell the folks to get started?
Thank you for having me on the show. Thank you for allowing me to express myself. Those of you who out there, just come check us out, and I'm pretty sure it'll be a fulfilling and interesting interview.
All right, sounds good. So we're going to just jump right in because I know that you've prepared 5 things that you learned about yourself as an author, but we're not going to start there. We want to start with just talking a little bit about you as an author because you are the sole male author for volume 1 of the Overcomers Anthology. So being the only male author for this anthology, what would you tell other men who write, or what would you tell other men who may be thinking about telling their story or getting published?
Be yourself. Don't don't try to write like you think some people want you to write. Just write however you feel. Let it come out and let them worry about the editing but just be yourself. Write from your heart. Well, if you writing a nonfiction and you writing about yourself, definitely write from the heart. If you're writing fiction, make sure you keep people interested. You want people to continue reading it. So yeah, especially as men, we always talk to hold everything in and don't express this and don't express that. No, that's what writing is for, to express. So as you writing your book or your material, just be yourself. Write it as if you want people to know that's you and not somebody else. That's what I would tell them.
You make a good point because for all the authors out there, it's important to capture your authentic voice. It's important that as people are reading the story, they hear you saying it. So that means that as authors, as communicators, we want to make sure that we are letting people know a little bit more about our story. That's a part of, again, building your brand, being an author, sharing with the larger audiences. So this is not your first publication. This is actually your second publication. You, like many of the other co-authors, this is your sophomore publication. So, what has been your biggest win as a two-time author now?
Getting people to understand that it first of all, it's hard. It's harder than you think to put your uh, thoughts on paper. Like you in your head, you got it all together, and you got the whole paragraph, and you got it. But as soon as you start writing it changed. So what I learned was just go with it, and your I kind of feel like your product will sell itself if it's right. People they gonna want it. They gonna want the first one, the second one. They're gonna keep coming back because they see that you're a talented writer. And I believe the stuff that I write, uh, more people than one can relate to. You know, because it's stuff that people want to say that other people don't say. So I believe my books help people relate to stuff that they probably won't talk to especially dudes. They will not talk about it to other people. So here you have this man writing a book that touch on something that maybe, yeah, that's how I've been feeling. And wow, I can't believe somebody wrote that. So that's how I feel about that. I believe that's part of the victory right there, to get other men to be able to see, wow, you can write about that, or wow, you can talk about that. So
Good.
that's
So, this is actually the first time that you and I have appeared on camera together. And for those of you who don't know,
right.
Brian is my husband, but he is also the the matching part, if you would, of the Claire Aldin Publications brand. So for those of you who don't know where the name came from, and a lot of times, I'm always tickled when people will reach out to me and email me or send me a message on Instagram and say, "Hi, Claire." So let me just give you a quick story behind the name Claire Aldin Publications. So Claire is the sophisticated version of my middle name. So my middle name is Clarice, and when I was little, my family all called me Clary. So Claire is the, like I said, the sophisticated version of Clary, and Aldin is actually Brian's middle name. So Claire Aldin Publications is the epitome of our joint collaboration. So, you are the only one who has had to work with your spouse in this whole dynamic. So, this is all unrehearsed, so I have no clue what he's going to say to any of my questions.
Right.
But what's it
You
like
did not
having your wife
practice.
as the publisher, as the writing coach, as the one pushing you to get it done?
Uh, some days I wish she would go away. Just stop talking to me about writing. And no, that's really like I don't want to write. But having somebody who know what you have inside you and they don't care. See, it's a hit it's a hit or miss relationship when it comes to that because my wife knows what I have inside of me just from my talks. My friend know what I have inside of me, but she know I ain't gonna bother you. But the wife don't really care. The wife be like, "This what we gonna do? We gonna write this book today." So it irritate my soul? I listen. Some days I be like, "Please don't talk to me about writing." But in the end, I thank her for being that pusher. Like, hey, you don't got to write the whole book in one day. Write a paragraph today, write a paragraph tomorrow. But we gonna write this book. I don't want to write. Yeah, okay, whatever. I expect this done by the and she. That's how she is. She don't care about me being her husband. Write the book. Let's get it done. I love you though.
In
That's
all
awesome. But
fairness,
I love that though. I love that though.
he can attest to the fact that I wear different hats and I compartmentalize very well. So when I'm publisher, I'm in publisher mode. When I'm coach, I'm in coach mode. When I'm wife, I'm in wife mode, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, you definitely wear a lot of hats.
Yes. So, not a lot of people know that you spent some time in the foster care system. And with May being Foster Care Awareness Month, I want you to talk a little bit about that. Even though you didn't get into that in your book chapter actually talks about resentment. So, tell
Right.
us a little bit about that experience in foster care. And again, with it being Foster Care Awareness Month, anything that you would share with someone who, again, aspires to do something greater, bigger than themselves.
The strange thing about my story in foster care is I didn't see myself going that route. But my mama had other plans. Like, okay, since you can't do what I tell you to do and act how I want you to act, this what we gonna do. Well, I got there and I didn't want to leave because it was different. It was a different atmosphere. I got to do stuff. I kind of had a little bit of freedom to, move about. Um, but I still had to have discipline. I had chores. We had to work as a unit because if one person messed up, everybody messed up. So it's like, well, I had to learn, okay, I can't be out here. I can't go outside when I want to or call myself walking off the premises because that affected everybody in the group. Um, it was weird because I wanted to be away from my mama, but I didn't want to be away from my mama. So it was a conflict. And then I tell people this: when people tell you that you can't or that you shouldn't, you got to weigh the options for yourself because somebody telling you what you can't do, that's just them having their own doubt within themselves about something they can't do. So if that person telling you can't do that, research it, check it out, see how you feel about it. Because at the end of the day, you gonna look back and say, "Dang, I should have did that. I should have took that job. I should have, went to that trial. I should." And we definitely don't want to do that when we get older because we all know a lot of coulda, woulda, shoulda, folks, and you don't want to do that. Chase them. Chase your dreams. If you want to be an accountant, chase it. If you want to be a doctor, chase it. If you want to be a lawyer, even if you want to be a rapper, chase it. Get it. See how far it take you. Don't let people tell you what you can and can't do because at the end of the day, it's all about what's in your head, what's in your head and your heart. You gotta
That's
go
good.
get it.
That's good. So we have a question. Angie says, was it challenging for you to be a father coming from the foster care system?
Yes, because you take things that you learn as a child and you incorporate into your adulthood. So I took a lot of things from the foster care and even from my own childhood, and I discovered that your kids, just because they're from your loins, do not act like you. They do not pick up things like you do. They do not respond to things the way you do. So you gotta scrap all that. You gotta scrap everything you thought you knew as a parent when you have kids, because before we have kids, we got a whole list of stuff of what we not going to accept, what we not going to, and then we have them, and you realize, ooh, even though I got to do that in a foster home, I can't do that with them because they're on a different level. So yeah, it was challenging. It was challenging when you have kids who look at you like that don't make sense to me, so I ain't doing it. And you try to be forceful. All kids not scared of force. I'm gonna say that again. All kids not scared of force. So you could try to force your kids, and they just look at you like, okay. So I learned, nope. You gotta learn how to navigate through it. Some kids you could hit once or twice and then get it together. Some kids be like, bring it. Then you scratching your head like, how I deal with that. So it definitely was taught because I was around different types of kids. So yeah, I wasn't just around black kids. It was white, Hispanic. So we all had different ways of dealing with stuff. So I got older and realized, oh, that's not how the world works when you have kids. So yeah, it was challenging.
Good.
Very.
Thank you for your questions. Keep dropping your questions in the comments. The next question is, how did your experience as a foster child shape you as an author?
Learning how to deal with different personalities in a foster home because every child in that foster home came from a different environment, and you couldn't just assume that they were in there for this, that, and the other. So once I started writing, I had to write my book from different perspectives because just because I look at it this way as I'm writing as the reader's reading it, I want to be able to relate them to be able to relate it to them some shape, form, or fashion. So everything I write, and I look back at being in the foster system, it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna write it as true and as authentic as I can because people call you on your crap, man, call it. And I don't want to write a book or be an author and say I've been through something and people be like, no, you wasn't. So that being in the foster home helped me understand about being, as we say, keeping it 100. Because you had to in the foster, and you had to because everybody was gonna call you on your problem. If you, oh, this is what I dealt with. Well, this is what I dealt with. So as I began to write, I said, okay, let me think back when I was a kid in this foster center, and you have to write from all different perspectives. You can't just write from your perspective because different people reading your book. So that's
Thank
how
you
I
for
feel.
sharing
That's how I
that.
look.
Thank you for sharing that. And all of our co
Well,
authors, again, were vulnerable at a different level and shared pieces of their story that they had not shared before. So thank you again for sharing that part of your story. Now, a lot of people, myself included, understand that writing can be very therapeutic. So for you, even though there was a little push and pull, but for you, how has writing been therapeutic? And particularly from a male perspective, I want to, again, not only encourage other men to be a part of writing and becoming authors and telling their story, but getting it out, getting it onto paper, talking about the things that, again, you carried for so long because, specifically your chapter deals with resentment with your mom. So how was this process therapeutic? And again, talk a little bit about that and how it impacted you.
having to be honest with myself because we we tell ourselves we not mad about something or we not bothered about something or this thing don't affect me. But as I started writing, I realized that I was damaged goods at a young age. Um, Having to reach a point where you gotta be honest with yourself. Like I, at one point, almost hated my mama, and that to me is the realest conversation you can have with yourself, not other people. Just to be able to admit to yourself, I wasn't really feeling my mama. Like I was mad, and this how I'm gonna act. So as I continue to write, even with my book before that, when you write stuff, when you think something, it's okay, I thought that. But when you write it on a piece of paper and you look at what you was thinking, that changed the whole dynamics. Because I ain't I didn't feel like I was thinking like that. But I wrote it, so I must have been thinking like that. So to see myself writing these, because it started out harsh. Whenever somebody read that chapter, they gonna be like, he was really harsh. But as the chapter goes, continue, you can see the softening. Because we as men, I really, this is a subject that I really wish people would really focus on. We as men, the first woman we learn to love is our mother. So the dynamics of the mother and son relationship has a huge effect on men's relationship with women as they growing up. Okay, so we don't really talk about that as men. We just, hey, I'm good. It don't hurt me. Well, okay, so why you treating her like that if you're not hurt, if you're not bothered, if that's not, so as I start digging into the layers of that resentment, it was like, whoa, so that's why that relationship was like that. So that's why that did, and that's why I acted like that. And you start putting the pieces together, like, oh, okay, that makes sense now. Oh, okay, that makes sense now. So it being honest with yourself is the first step to recovery. Because you could lie to other people, say, oh, I'm good. Well, some people you could lie to, but it's people who know you and they just shake their head like, nah, no, you not. And until you, like I always tell people, you got to hit that wall. And until you hit that wall, you going to, especially men, once again, man, we got all these barriers and we tough and, underneath we want to cry just like y'all. We want to cry, break down and cry just like y'all. But we taught don't do that. Don't cry. Punks cry. No. Then I saw one of the most important verses in the Bible that changed my whole perspective on men crying. Jesus wept. That was a mic drop to me. Like if Jesus can cry, oh, I ain't holding it back no more. I'm not holding back no more. So yeah, that was very therapeutic. It stung me, the stuff I was writing. It hurt, and I had to put the pencil down, and I had to, But at the end, it was like, okay, I even had to call my mom. I'm like, we need to talk. Yeah, because this, whoo.
So that's
So
what I want to
when
get
you
to
hit,
next. And I see your question, Dr. Clark. We'll get there in just a second. But just for the benefit of those watching and who don't know the story, talk about how your relationship with your mom is now on the other side of the chapter, on the other side of dealing with you and dealing with everything that you
right,
had to go through.
somewhere over the rainbow type thing. We good now. I can honestly say me and my mother can talk without it being who have to control the conversation. We can have conversation. It's not like we talking at each other or I'll put the phone down and just whatever you talking. And the love is genuine because I ain't gonna even lie. But I wasn't sure if my mama loved me. She said it, but I don't know. So as time went on, now we're here, and it's like, okay, my mama loved me. She she'll go to bat for me. I don't know. I just believe the power of prayer is awesome because it was a point me and my mom wasn't talking. So for us to be at a point where, okay, I say, let me call my mama because it wasn't a time I wouldn't say that. I didn't say that. I don't talk to her, but now I'll be like, I ain't talked to my mom in a couple of days. Let me call my mom. Hey, mom, and we jovial with each other. So that really makes me happy that we could kind of joke and be jovial and you know have conversation, meaningful conversations, or you know feel a conversation. It's all good. Nah, it's good.
That's
It's
wonderful.
awesome.
So, Dr. Clark's question is, what was your writing process? So, tell us a little bit about from you looking at that blank page to actually completing your book chapter.
Listen, I had so many balled up pieces of paper. I have to admit that as a writer, if those first couple of lines don't sound right to me, if it ain't something that I'll be like, let me read that, start over. So I had so many balled up pieces of paper because I want it, my writing, I want people to hear me. I want them to hear me. I don't want them to hear what somebody else said or that sound like Dr. So-and-so, he got that from off of. No, when people, my process is every word I write, when you read it, you're gonna know, oh yeah, that's him. And it's slow. It might take me a week to write 2 pages because I got that no, and I don't like when I make mistakes when I'm writing. So it's really, I'm horrible. I got to write. It's gonna take me a minute because if I mess up and got to erase or mark, so I'm real, I'm real tedious when it comes to writing. It take me a minute to write. I'm not
So
even
for
gonna
all
lie
of
to
you
you.
out
My
there who
process is
are thinking that it has to be a certain way or even starting on a computer, there's a lot of us authors that actually write with pen and paper, pencil and paper first and get it down that way
that's it.
before we actually transcribe it into a typed or word process document. So don't
Yes.
be discouraged if
Yep.
you got paper and pencil. That's all right. A lot of us do, but it's a process. Just whatever your process is, stick with what works for you. Good,
That's
good,
right.
good. So let's go ahead and talk about the 5 things that you learned about yourself as a result of participating in this anthology. Because even though you already had your first book out, this was a little bit different process. So tell us the 5 things that you learned about yourself.
One thing that I learned is that I'm really a perfectionist when it comes to writing. I did not know that, but mm-mm. if that, if I put a word somewhere and I look at that and it's not nope, and it's easy. I could just erase it, put the nope. I'm the whole piece of paper. It got, dude. You could have just no. If the period, I don't like when my words overlap the line on the page. You know that little red line. If it no,
Yes, the
so I
margin.
learned that I am a perfectionist when it comes to. I didn't know that. I didn't think about that. To me in that resentment chapter, we kept going at it like, hey, you can't keep going over the red line, bro. I can't keep starting over. So yeah, I learned. Yep, he's a perfectionist when it comes to writing.
Okay.
Yep.
Anything else?
I also learned that being honest with yourself is harder than people think, especially if you've been lying to yourself for years. Like if been telling yourself for years that car was green and you know it wasn't, and then you finally come to the reality that the car is blue. That's to tell yourself that you feel this way about a person that you've been telling yourself for years. I love my mama, and then you start writing the story and realize, it was a time that I didn't. So that being honest with yourself is harder than, people say, oh, I have to be honest. Yeah, you that sound good till you got to write something out about how you feel. Then you like, wow, I did not know. Yeah. So being honest with yourself is harder than people think. Uh, the third thing I learned about myself is when I really want to get something done, I can. Because my publisher wife was like, look, don't play with me. Get this. Again. All right. How many pages you need? And we looked up, it was done. So I realized, okay, I can put the pedal to the metal and make it happen. So that's a good thing to learn about yourself. Like, oh, okay, so when I really need to do something, I could do it. The fourth thing I learned about myself is I like expressing myself on paper. I used to lie and tell myself that I really don't like writing. But as I began to write that chapter, it was like, oh, wow, okay. That sting a little bit, but okay. Oh, wow. People gonna like that because I bet. See, I learned that you could put yourself in people's head by writing. Because if you write something that's true about people's emotions and feelings, it's somebody who gonna read that and they either gonna cry, laugh, they gonna do something, they gonna respond to it. So when I learned that, like, oh, you could do that. Oh, okay, I like that. I can do that writing thing. I can. When I Now I don't know, me and my wife share a couple colorful words with each other, but when I ain't on that tip, I could write with the best of them. I believe I'm pretty good. The last thing I learned is if you writing something about people that's personally, you can't you can't nip and tuck it. You gotta be this what happened. This how I felt. You want to talk about it? No. Maybe 10 years ago it'd been like we could rap about it or we could scrap about it. It's which one you want to do. Now I'm older. It's like, look, this what happened. This how it was done. Let's talk about it. But that's what happened. And it might hurt your feelings. And I don't be trying to be like I don't care, but at the same time I do. Like this what happened. That's the story. Now you want to talk to me about it, and you say that I should have not put that in. Well, you should have not did that, and I wouldn't have put it in there. So that's how I feel about it. Like you can't beat around. Just tell them, look, this is what this. It's gonna help both of us in the end, though. It's therapeutic for both of us. So yeah, I learned quite a bit. Got about 10 more things I learned, but that's a whole nother.
So let me say this. If I can get this man right here to put pen to paper and finish a book chapter, a book,
Man,
look, I can help
anybody.
anybody. I'm confident in that right now. So based on the
Because I was,
conversations that you and I have had, I know that you dealt with a little bit of imposter syndrome when it comes to seeing yourself as an
oh
author.
yeah,
Talk
oh
about that
yeah.
a little bit.
Uh, that writing. Nah, having a, I just didn't feel like that writing was. Nobody feeling. First of all, I didn't think nobody was gonna read my stuff, and then have somebody say, "Well, it might not be for everybody, but somebody will read it." That helped me come from behind that. Nobody's gonna read it because it's a book somewhere that nobody else looked at except for one person because that book was for them. So having somebody tell me, "Look, come from behind that." I didn't really want to write because you know, I write the way I talk. And when my publisher said, "Good, write the way you talk," it didn't make sense to me at first. Like, what? I got to write like them. Like those, no, write like you. So once you come from behind all that and be yourself and say, "Okay, this how I'm writing. I'm gonna let them worry about fixing it up." But I'm writing it like that. So yeah, it was hard at first, but once you start, anybody out there who listening, once you start writing, it's over with because you on the roll. Because I could write that. Once you get past them first couple of paragraphs and you see 2 or 3 pages, you like, hmm, I got three
Now,
pages. I could write 3 more.
I
I could
want to
write
also
5 more.
emphasize that that whole imposter syndrome about whether you're an author or not, that happened even after your first book was published. So it's not something that you only deal with one time. It's something that could keep rearing its head.
Yes, he can. And it definitely told me on this chapter book, like, boy, I don't might want to hear that. Like, I ain't finna write that. That was one of those. I think because I jumped up the boogie like, yeah, I write it, and it hit me like, ooh, I really.
All
So
right.
having somebody who like, nope, nope, you're gonna write this thing. So that's awesome.
We got another question. So Rob says, how did you get past the writer's block?
Keep writing. Just if you write 2 words every 30 minutes, before you know it, you'll have a page. The problem is it ain't writer block, it's distraction. That's all it is. Everything going on around you. Because there's been times I done sat down, played the game, wrote 5 pages, did something else, wrote 5 more pages. So it's all about distraction. Who bothering you, who in your ear, what's going on, da da da. But once you sit down and say, you know what, I'm about to write this. And please remember, you don't have to write the book in one sit down. That's the worst thing to think you finna do. Write a whole book in one. No, you're not. Cause your mind is so much in your brain, you're not finna write a book in one sit down. So cut out the distractions. If you need to go in a quiet room, if you need to be like, Jack Nicholson was in The Shine and got your little room where you going in and write. But you got to get writer's block. Really is about distractions. Cut your phone off. Tell the wife or girlfriend or whoever she is, I'm doing this. Tell the boyfriend, look, we ain't finna do all that today. I'm writing, and you gotta get rid of them and write a paragraph. If you gotta write a paragraph every 15, 20 minutes, you'll have a whole page. You'll have it done faster than you know once you get rid. And I learned that from my publisher. Get rid of the distraction, and my wife, and my friend, and my boss. No.
I love it. I love it. All right. So, if you had to tell yourself something, your younger self something, as
Woo.
an author, as a writer, what would that be? What would that look like?
Tell myself something as a writer at a young
Your
age.
younger self, and you could pick the age, but
Uh,
if you had to tell your younger self something, what would
I
that be?
would catch myself at 14, and I would have told myself to start writing a bio about the stuff that I was going through, because it would have helped me, because I would have saw it. I would have saw it in writing, and who knows where that would have went. Would it have got published? I don't know, but just write it. And I would have told myself. I also would have told myself to keep a diary or was that a journal.
Journal. Yeah.
I should have did that. I should have did that as a kid, because it was a lot of but I didn't write it down, so it was all in my brain. So I'm walking around angry and just whew. So imagine at 14, if I would have been writing this how I feel, it would have eased a little bit of that resentment and rebellion. So yeah, I tell the 14-year-old me, get a journal and write a bio and sell it when you get 18. Make a movie, do something. Definitely,
Help to fund
definitely
something else
write it
that you
down.
want to do.
Yeah, yeah, do write write the book, do something, but definitely write it down. Right, I would have definitely told my 14-year-old self to keep a journal.
Good.
Definitely,
Good. So journaling is important regardless of age, regardless of
man.
gender. Guys need to journal just as much as girls need to journal. It's
Yes.
therapeutic. It helps you. And again, you never know what's going to come of that. So that's good. Now, I know you might have touched on this already, but in what ways did you need to change or discipline yourself in order to get the writing done?
Oh yeah, definitely had to cut out. I had to put myself on a schedule. I had to say, okay, because my drug of choice is the video game. So okay, since you want to play the video game, this is what we gonna do. Play the halftime, go right. Finish the second half, go right. So I always incorporate, okay, if you gonna do this, then play this long and then go right. Okay, play this long, then go right. And that's how I got the first book wrote. Man, yes. Okay, stop playing the game, go right. And the deal was write at least 5 pages. So I always told myself, because think about this. It takes a couple of minutes to write a page when you focus. Like
Yeah.
when you really focus, you could write a whole page in like 2 or 3 minutes. So imagine taking 15 minutes. That's 5 pages. You just wrote 5 pages. You just wrote 2 chapters almost within an hour. So as I began to discipline myself, say, okay, stop doing that for a minute. I know you like playing the game, but go write 5 pages. Five became 10. 10 became 15. Next thing you know, I'm telling my publisher, hey, I done wrote 80 pages. Oh, that's about time. I see you can do it. So yeah, you gotta tell yourself, okay. Oh, and another thing, I started telling myself, okay, if you kind of saying to yourself you don't have nothing to do, yes you do. Go write a couple of pages. And even if it's just, a couple, usually you write a couple of sentences and okay, you write a couple of paragraphs and you kind of walk away, go get you a sandwich, do whatever you do. Wait a couple of minutes. Oh, I'm gonna write this, and next thing you know, you done wrote another chapter. So writing is really about discipline. I'm gonna stop doing that to do that. So yeah,
Good. Another question. So Dr. Clark says, what was the most surprising thing you learned about being an author?
that I could complete a book, that I really could complete that. That not only could I complete the book, but it made sense. It wasn't gibberish. Cause some people write stuff and you be like, "Ooh, where you? All right, that's good for you, but I don't think I'm gonna read that." So to be able to not only finish the book, but have people who looked over to be like, "Wow, I didn't know you could." I didn't know you had that in you. So yeah, finishing, it really surprised me. Now I finished the whole book and a chapter.
Good, good, good. Dr. Bernard said, I just said the same thing to myself. That's hilarious. All right. So we talked about the book chapter. We talked about the best part as far as being an author. But what was the best part specifically about participating in this anthology for you?
Realizing that we all have a pain and a hurt that we have to get over. Not as in saying it didn't hurt, but we got to get through that thing. And having, other people who not get this in some shape, form, or fashion, we all could relate to each other's story.
Yes.
Like each one of us had like, wow, oh, wow. So I believe once people read this here anthology, they're gonna be like, wow, I went through that, or I know somebody, or da-da-da. So sitting down with five of us in the group and sharing our thoughts on it and getting feedback and saying, wow, I didn't even know. So that was good. That was therapeutic in itself.
Yeah.
You sitting amongst people and you think you the only one hurting from something, and then you hear that person's story and you be like, you cut your pearls like, oh, wow. I thought I was going through something. So yeah, that was an eye opener for me. And I have utmost respect for the writers in the anthology, because it's like, wow, you could tell people about that. You could share that with the public, because this is a public book. You could share that with the public. We good. Let's take over the world, huh?
I
We
love that.
did something that a lot of people couldn't do. So I love it. That helped me. That helped me a lot.
So the collaboration was the best part of it for you. And I thank you for sharing that because, again, there's a method to my madness. It was 5 anthology authors for volume 1. I'm maxing it out at 20 for volume 2. So if you want to be a part of volume 2 of Overcomers Anthology, I'm limiting it to 20 authors because that small group participation is an important part of the process. So again, what he talked about, after we wrote our chapters, after the chapters went through editing, at least the first 2 rounds of editing, and we came together. That was the first time that all the authors knew what the other authors were writing about, knew the topic of their particular chapters about overcoming, and we had a chance to come together and hear each other's stories. And we heard it in a unique way. Again, method to my madness.
Right.
So they didn't read their own chapters when we all came together. They read each other's chapters aloud, because a part of my process for proofreading is making sure that you're reading it aloud, because your mind does things when you're reading it silently on a computer or even on a piece of paper. So it's important to read it aloud. So each person read someone else's book chapter aloud. It allowed them to hear their story being told by someone else. Because again, if you're releasing it into the public, you want to be comfortable with people reading your story. So that was the first stage of building that comfortability. Sometimes uncomfortable being comfortable, but still at that point where you understand, okay, someone else is going to be reading this. How am I perceiving this? How am I going to respond to it? Good.
If I can interject on that right quick, having somebody else read your, an excerpt of your story, and you realize, wow, I wrote that, and wow, okay, yeah, definitely pearl clutching, yes. Gonna be a couple of ooh-wees too.
All right. So, what is next for you as an author? You have your first book. Tell us what the name of your first book is. Tell us about that story, and then tell us what's next for you as an author.
My first book is called "I Stopped Smoking Weed and Cigarettes. Now What?" That book right there, that book really opened me up to looking back and saying, wow, my whole life, well, not my whole life, that part of my life was I stayed behind the smoke screen. And I tell people, we all, in some shape, form, or fashion, have a smoke screen up. I say screen, smoke screen. We have that up. And to write that book and letting people know that you got to come from behind it or your whole life, that whole thing is a facade. And then you realize, wow, I was faking the whole time. And that book, showed me that my smoke screen was the weed and the cigarettes. So I dropped the ball on a lot of things. I really think people should check that book out, because it'll show you what happened when you think you know something and you really don't. And it touched a little bit on spiritual warfare. It touched a little bit on how you think you know what you're doing as a parent, as a husband, as a father, as a friend. You realize that book showed me that I was jacked up in more ways than one being behind that smoke screen. So yeah, we got to come from behind that smoke screen.
For those who have not had a chance to read your first story, just let us know, how long were you addicted to weed and cigarettes, approximately?
Ah, man, about 20 years. It probably was longer than that. Uh, I would lie to myself. You could tell yourself that something is not a problem, and you know it's a problem. You know something a problem when you look forward to doing that thing more than you look forward to breathing. When
Yeah,
your first objective is to get to that, oh yeah, yeah.
it's a problem.
And then yeah, when you be like Malcolm X, by any means necessary, I gotta get that. Yeah, that might be a problem. When your job and your family and your friends and anybody, just it don't matter about your relationships with them, you just want that. Yeah, that might be. You probably won't go
So
on
what's
with
next for
it.
you?
So I got a book on the horizon. I got a couple of books on the horizon. My favorite book that I'm about to get ready to come out with is Playing Chess with God, a game you can't win. That's all I'm gonna do is shake my head on that one. I got another book about meeting your first love, losing your first love, and getting back with your first love. I like that one. That one I forgot the name of it, but I uh, definitely writing that one. That's in print as we speak. That's being written as we speak. Got a couple of collaborations with the wife that we keep a secret till we figure out what we really gonna do with them. But I promise you, they some head busters, not busters. They some head busters, and I promise you, they're gonna help you. Trust me. If when you've been knowing somebody for almost 30 years and you talking about relationships, oh, there's some stuff you gonna say that's gonna be like, wow, yeah, wow. So, um, yeah. So I got some stuff on the horizon. Then I promise you gonna shake up some things. That playing chess with God, that's a bad boy. I'm telling you, because in that book, I'm saying things that most people think when it comes to their relationship with God. Everybody don't be honest about that. They mad at God. Yeah, they don't. People don't want to say I'm mad at God, but you mad at God. You could tell by the stuff you say and do that you got a problem with God. And that's playing chess with God, but that's a whole nother. I'm gonna let y'all check it out. It'll be out hopefully by the fall. We'll have that one up and
I'm gonna
kicking.
hold you to that.
I know you are. I shouldn't have said that, but yeah,
All
we'll talk
right.
to you off
So
camera.
right, we'll discuss that off camera. So for those of you who
I
are not
know, right?
aware, not only
I
is
know, right?
Brian my husband, my partner in ministry, my partner in work and everything else, but he just touched on the fact that, yeah, he and I have known each other for 30 years this year, actually. We
Yeah, it'll
met
be
in
30 years.
1990. I was, fresh out of high school. He was fresh out of the Army. So we've been knowing each other for 30 years. We were friends for 24 years before we
Yep.
ever became a couple,
Anything
before we ever
else?
became intimate, before we ever became husband and wife. So, yeah, we got a lot of stories to tell. How can people
Yes.
connect with you? How can people get a copy of the Overcomers Anthology from you? And before you say that, so let me just let everyone know, I've been, kind of doing my disclaimer on each of the live streams with our co-authors. The paperback book is not available on Amazon yet. That's very intentional. Only the ebooks is available online, but you have to get your autographed copy of the Overcomers Anthology from your favorite co-author. It's not going to be available until June. So if you want to get an autographed copy, contact one of your favorite co-authors. Again, it's 5 of us. Contact your favorite co-author to get a copy of the Overcomers Anthology. It will be available online in June. I'll be making that announcement soon. But right now, it's only available from your co-authors. And the co-authors, most of them have got copies already. I'm delivering my last set of copies tomorrow. So all of the co-authors will have theirs before June 1st. So make sure you drop them a comment or connect with them. How can people get in touch with you, Brian?
Facebook, Brian Matthews. I I don't have a YouTube. I'm sorry, I'm still antiquated. Don't have YouTube page. My wife's schooling me on the Instagram. I think I'm Instagram at BMAT. Me and the wife gonna have to. She got to teach me all that because Listen, I'm old, okay? I used to say you could call me. I guess that don't work no more. So, yeah, Facebook me. I'm Brian Matthews on Facebook. I'll DM you if you need my IG. I know I got a Twitter page, which Lord have mercy. Like I said, the wife is gonna help me broaden my horizons on social media because all I
Look, I'm
know
going
is
to use
Facebook.
him as a case study to teach you what to do when you go from having 0 followers on social media to
Right.
developing the bomb author platform. So I just put
Listen.
the Instagram in the comments. He's BMAT 1218
Listen.
on Instagram. But yeah, he's going to be my test
I'm
case.
I'm I'm old. I still was thinking about MySpace. Leave me alone. As far as getting the book, you can cash at me at $ capital D lowercase n capital B 1218. Uh, if you got Venmo, I think I'm Brian Matthews on Venmo. If not, I'll put that on there. Show you how to get that. But that's me, Cash App,
So essentially, reach
autograph
out to him
copy.
directly and
Yeah,
he'll walk you through the
we'll
process,
work
whatever's best
we'll
for
work it out after that. Listen, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just old. I'm old school. So that's why I got a young, beautiful wife to
you.
help me show me how to navigate through this
Copies
social
out the
media
trunk
stuff.
of the car.
Man, hey, listen. Uh Masterpiece sold 10,000 copies of his album, and Too Short did it too. So hey, we got to go back to them days. We'll be in somebody's driveway selling books. But on a serious note, I really think you all enjoy the Overcomers Anthology, and even if you don't get it for me, get it for yourself.
Sounds good. Any final thoughts that you want to share with our audience today?
Uh, Two things. One, regardless of what's going on around us, always remember God's still in charge. Two, love your peoples. Love them, regardless of what's going on. Love them. Call them, check on them. Hey, I don't want nothing. I just called to make sure you were still good. And that's all I got for you. Love on each other, and remember God's still in charge.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Again, I don't see any additional comments or questions, so thank you for spending your evening with us. This has been DeAndrea Matthews, Brian Matthews, Claire Aldin Publications, together for the first time in a public
I
interview.
know, right? I know. It went pretty well, I must say.
Right, right. So thank you for
I
joining
know,
us.
right?
Enjoy the rest of your evening. Good night, everyone.
Good night, y'all.